Neuropathic itching. You might have caught me there. All right, folks, I'm Joe Duffy, CEO of PicksDepot.com. Let's take a look at the early steam moves for Week 2 in college football, as well as who is the public betting based on the number of tickets, and there is some overlapping, but not perfectly so. So far, the biggest early line moves. Army opened up as a 4.5-point favorite against Western Kentucky. They're now up to 6.5, and really the thinking there is, talk about a contrast in styles. Army is a team that can certainly slow it down with the triple option. Western Kentucky likes to play at a mile a minute. And what the public is thinking here is Army is playing at home. They'll be able to set the tone of the game. And of course, as a general rule of thumb, the public does like to bet favorites. And of course, Army, they are back. To say the least, they're back as a school that could, even make a run at the bowls. But anyway, Army, the early money has moved Army from a 4.5-point favorite to a 6-point favorite. Notre Dame opened up as 18.5. They're now down to 16.5. They clearly look vulnerable against Florida State and picking up an ugly victory. And the theory being they're off of an overtime game. So not just the physical exhaustion, but the mental exhaustion. And clearly Notre Dame with some holes to fix on the defensive side. It's always been said that Notre Dame is a public team. Truthfully, that's not totally true. Notre Dame is a team that people do like to fade. That's really kind of historically true that they're a public team, but Notre Dame isn't necessarily a blind public team. But anyway, clearly the money coming in on Toledo. And really after that, not much to speak of. Very minor moves. Florida International goes from a 1-point underdog to Texas State to a 1-point favorite. And Nebraska finally got a win under their belt. I know people keep looking for them to have a breakout year. We know that Martinez, one of the most underrated or most underachieving, not underrated, but underachieving quarterbacks in the country. They open as a 12-point favorite up to 13.5. If it does pass 14, that becomes a lot more significant, but at least something to keep an eye on. Now, here is who the early bets are on in terms of the percentage of bets. Texas A&M and Colorado. And Texas A&M, quite frankly, in some areas, and again, there is no 100% objective opening line, but this line has moved a little bit. I'm a little surprised that the public is betting on Texas A&M because the truth is, it's a general rule of thumb in kind of nondescript games like this. The Joey Bag of Donuts likes to bet against road teams playing in the thin air of Colorado, just blindly so. It's sometimes where, the Joey Bag of Donuts likes to outsmart himself. They're doing that, though, in the next game. Not surprisingly, one of the bigger early steam plays in terms of percentage of bets. Colorado State is now getting 96% of the tickets against Vanderbilt. And a lot of people would argue that Vanderbilt is the worst Power 5 team. So even though as a general rule of thumb, public likes to bet on SEC teams and interconference games, that's when they're fairly respectable. Not a team like Vanderbilt where a lot of people are saying they're the worst Power 5 teams. We mentioned Army. They're getting 89% of the tickets that have been written so far against Western Kentucky. I explained why. There has been a little bit of a line move in there, as I said. Purdue against UConn. We know that Randy Edsall is most likely, he announces a retirement at the end of the year. I think he might have a retirement announced to him before the end of the year, but UConn becoming a very chic team to definitely fade. Now, this isn't that big of a surprise. The public, for the most part, likes to bet favorites. But they also like betting good teams and specifically ranked teams as underdog. And the most popular underdog this week is Iowa. Iowa getting some points in their rivalry against Iowa State, but 87% of the money is on them. Again, a lot of people like to use the term trendy dogs. I like to use the term chic dogs. But chic dogs are more so underdogs that aren't ranked, that aren't like top-level teams. So this isn't, when it comes to our contrarian plays, we don't just blindly bet against the team with the highest percentage. And of course, as I said in my videos, if you check it out on my YouTube channel, where I weighted accordingly when knowing the public likes to bet favorites. Well, when they bet on underdogs, usually fading what I call the chic dogs, what a lot of people like to call the trendy dogs, is a pretty good idea. The exception, though, being when it's a ranked team, because, again, the public does like to bet quality teams as underdogs. You know, is Michigan finally going to have their breakout? They're getting 87% of the tickets in the non-conference kind of Rose Bowl matchup against Washington. And after that, there's no really overwhelming consensus play when it comes to the early week action. Please, if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you do subscribe, like, comment. I come back, and I'll if you have a legitimate question, I'll be more than happy to answer that for you. And as you did see, make sure you do follow us on Picks Depot, at Picks Depot, where you want to get the best sports selections year-round, led by me, Grandmaster Handicapper Joe Duffy.